It actually seems like it's been a while since we've done one of these episodes. Anyway, let's jump right into it. It's time for another episode of... Hi there, it's Bret here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel here, as it's time to talk about our junior hockey team, the Calgary Hitmen again, as we're up to Season 2, Episode 4 of my Calgary Hitmen in 6. This is where I'll take a look at games 13 to 18 on the 2019-20 WHL schedule here, and it just seems like it's been a while since I've done an episode here, but these 6 games have been quite spread out here, especially when you get to games 5 and 6 of this segment here. There was a week in between games, so I guess that's what happens here, but the schedule the last couple of years has been a lot more concentrated games on the weekend here too, so that's another reason why it seems like it's been a while here. So let's jump right in and let's take a look at how games 13 to 18 went for the Calgary Hitmen here. And I think strength of schedule definitely played a role in this segment of games here, and as well as when I get to the end here, we have a few forwards that are on sick bay here, so that's why there's a few forwards you haven't heard in a while here. But let's get started here. Let's go all the way back to game number 13 here. This happened on Saturday, November the 2nd here, and this was the Bret the Hitmen the Hart night. I didn't personally go to this game, but he was in the Saskatoon there, and the Calgary Hitmen wore their special Bret the Hitmen Hart jerseys here, as he was one of the original founders of the Calgary Hitmen here. That's why we're called the Hitmen, and as I believe he says, the best there ever is and the best there ever was, and he is in the WWE Hall of Fame there recently. I know there's videos on there online, and yeah, it's, sometimes the World Wrestling Entertainment has a lot of, twists and turns, I'll say, but rightfully so. He's in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, and he's one of the local celebrities here in Calgary, and one of the celebrity fans for the Flames as well, and all Calgary sports. So anyway, this happened on Saturday, November 2nd here, as we were taking on the Saskatoon Blades at home at the Scotiabank Saddledome here, and also Bret the Hitman Hart aside here. This could be a chance to see if we can have a better outing against the Saskatoon Blades here, because if you go back to the last episode here, and we played the Saskatoon Blades at home on Thanksgiving Monday there, it definitely was more painful than indigestion that comes from having too much turkey on Thanksgiving, as we got blown out there. But Calgary Hitmen took an early penalty from Carson Fook, but they killed it off here. Just before the 14-minute mark of the first period here, Saskatoon strikes first by Tristan Robbins, and the first period ended 1-0 for the Blades there. So not as bad there, but we were behind in the first period there. We were still keeping up with the Blades for the most part here, other than the score here. Second period, the Hitman was pressing hard and looking for the tying goal. And it was just before the 9-minute mark of the second period here. Blake Allen, one of the guys that we just got from Regina there a couple weeks ago, actually scored his first goal as a Calgary Hitman to tie the game at 1-1. A few penalties on both sides around in the second period, but it was a 1-1 game going into the third period here, so at least we have a much, much closer game than last time we played the Blades here, but that's not saying much either, but still more encouraging. Early in the third period, in fact about 48 seconds in, the Saskatoon from Eric Florchuk scores to give the Blades a 2-1 lead to set the tone here. Excuse me. However, the captain, Mark Kaslik, past the 11-minute mark, ties the game up at 2-2 here, but the momentum was short-lived as Saskatoon regained the lead just 2.5 minutes later when Eric Florchuk once again scores for the Blades, and it was 3-2 there. Calgary Hitmen looking for the equalizer on the power play a minute later, but ultimately fell short in this game and lost this one 3-2 here. So a much closer game, but fortunately same result here. Who led the way in this game? Well, the only guy with the multi-point game was obviously Eric Florchuk with the 2 Blades goals there. Hitmen actually did outshoot the Blades 39-31. Jack went on for the Hitmen, made 28 saves. He had a strong outing here. However, Noah Mayer for the Blades was also just as strong with 37 saves there. So that was game 13. So unfortunately, we did not win under Bret the Hitman Hart night. But I'm going to also say, encouraging that we also didn't get shown the door early by the Blades like the last time we played. So game 14, this happened in the next afternoon on Sunday, November 3rd at 2 p.m. puck drop at the Scotiabank Saddledome here. We were taking on the nemesis, the Edmonton Oil Kings here, as things haven't got much easier. And in fact, in recent CHL rankings, Edmonton Oil Kings, last I saw, they were third in the CHL here. And as we say, the last couple of years, the Edmonton Oil Kings have had our number here too, but we'll see how this game goes. But Calgary actually strikes first at the 8-minute mark when Carson Fuchs scores. At that time, it was his 10th goal of the season here. So it was 1-0 here, and it stayed 1-0 for the Calgary Hitmen after the first period there. And as expected, it was definitely a spirited affair with the nature of the Battle of Alberta here. In the second period, the Oil Kings got a power play past the 8-minute mark after a boarding incident. And Edmonton ties it up just by the 10-minute mark as Jason Alexander scores. And it was actually 1-1 after 2 period there. So going into the third period here, it was a tight game here. However, third period remained that way until the 11-minute mark when actually James Malm for the Calgary Hitmen put us up 2-1 here. After that goal, a few more penalties occurred on both sides. I mean, you expect a spirited affair between Calgary and Edmonton here. And Hunter Campbell for Calgary and Ethan McAdoo for Edmonton both took on sportsmanlike penalties. And 18 seconds later, Mark Kaslik for Calgary had an incident with their goalie Todd Scott there. 18 seconds later, took coincidental minors. After all that, it was Ethan Cap for the Edmonton Oil Kings at the 14-minute mark. Ties the game at 2-2 here. So maybe we were hoping that maybe we would take this thing to overtime and salvage a point here. However, unfortunately, the dagger came. There was 55 seconds left in the game. Ethan Cope, or David Cope I should say, scored the go-ahead goal and the game winner to take a late 3-2 win. So Edmonton takes this one 3-2 here. Calgary actually did outshoot the Edmonton Oil Kings 40-28 here, so we definitely had a nice effort here. Unfortunately, you couldn't hang on there late. David Cope led the way for the Oil Kings with a goal and assist there, and then Riley Sawchuk also chipped in with 2 assists for the Oil Kings. There were no multi-point getters for the Calgary Hitmen in this game. It was Braden Peters who made the net, who was a net for the Hitmen, made 25 saves, while Todd Scott made 38 saves for the Edmonton Oil Kings here. So that was that game here. So the schedule's still looking pretty tough here. And game 15, this happened on Wednesday, November 6th. We were taking on the Prince Albert Raiders at home at Scotiabank Saddledome. Yet another tough team, and Prince Albert Raiders, I believe last I checked, they were 5th in the CHL last I checked. So I've gotten 2 of the stronger teams in the WHL here. Well, once again, like the last few games here, the Calgary Hitmen did actually score first. Actually early in, just past the 2.5-minute mark, one of the imports that we drafted from the Czech Republic, Jonas Pedrick, scored to make it 1-0 for Calgary here. However, Prince Albert did tie it up past the 13-minute mark when Spencer Moe for the Raiders scores to make it 1-1. So we had a 1-1 game after the first period there. It was a balanced effort at the first, but Prince Albert Raiders did pick up their play in the second period here. Raiders got the lead when Evan Herman scored just past the 7-minute mark. So it was 2-1 for Prince Albert. And it stayed 2-1 for the Prince Albert Raiders after 2 periods there. So what does the third period have in store here for the Hitmen here? Third period, the Calgary Hitmen fought back with a strong third period of their own. First, to work of Weisblad for the Hitmen. Ties it up past the 5-minute mark, and the Hitmen continue to press hard to get the go-ahead goal here. It didn't get awarded for that until Orca Weisblad once again scores a second of the game, past the 18-minute mark to get the go-ahead goal, and then Igor Zamola put it in the empty net with under 30 seconds left. So Calgary had 3 goals in the third period here and took this game actually 4-2 here. And obviously the Calgary Hitmen were led by Orca Weisblad's 2 goals, and Luke Prokof, the defenseman, he had 2 assists there. Calgary also had a slight edge in shots here by outshooting the Prince Edward Raiders 32-28 here. Braden Peters was in net for the Hitmen with 26 saves, while Boston Billius for the Prince Edward Raiders made 28 saves here. So definitely was encouraging to get the win for the over against the Prince Edward Raiders here. So that was game 15. So game 16, this happened on Friday, November 8th here. We were taking on the Tri-City Americans, still at home at the Scotiabank Saddledome, and this was the last home game on this homestand before Calgary has a 6-game road trip here, as the Grey Cup festivities are going to be at Stampede Park here. So the Saddledome's going to be a busier place of Flames games, and there was a Roughnecks preseason game, and then festivities during the 107th Grey Cup here. So like the last few games here, the Calgary Hitmen scored the first again, this time past the 10.5 minute mark, so about past the midway mark of the first period. Igor Zamola scored, the defenseman, to give Calgary a 1-0 lead, and it was 1-0 after the first period there. First period saw a lot of shots, but the second period, I could sum up, it was a little more of a defensive effort here. And it wasn't until just past the 7-minute mark of the second period here, Kyle Olsen of the Tri-City Americans ties the game up at 1-1. So after 2 periods, it was 1-1 here. Second period, I did have some rust up before we jumped to the third period here, as past 14-minute mark, Blake Allen for Calgary and Jay Platts for Tri-City each had fighting, and Dakota Krebs for Calgary and Carlson for Tri-City also took roughing penalties at the same time there. So there was definitely some rust up here, you know, at the 14-minute mark there. So there was a little entertainment to boot there. So going into the third period here, things opened up again for both sides. There was a lot more shots and a lot more goals here. First, Nick Bowman, just before the 7-minute mark, puts the Tri-City Americans up 2-1 here before Mark Kaslick for the Calgary Hitmen ties the game up at 2-2 past the 13-minute mark. And then actually Calgary took the lead when Carson Fook scored his 11th of the season past the 15.5-minute mark. So Calgary now had a 3-2 lead going into the later sessions of the third period. However, with the extra attacker and the goalie pulled, the Tri-City Americans were looking for the tying goal, and at the 1938-minute mark, Connor Richard scored and tied the game up at 3-3. So this one was going to need some overtime here, and overtime here, both sides had shots and chances here, but that did not solve anything. So this one needed a shootout here. Calgary Hitmen was the first team up on the shootout here. So first it was Josh Prokof who was called upon, and he missed the first shot here. Tri-City Americans' first shot by Carl Olsen was also missed here. So the second shot that the Calgary Hitmen had, they called on James Malm here, and he missed. But Tri-City Americans on their second shot got a goal by Connor Richard here. So you know he scored the tying goal in the last minute here. He scored the go-ahead goal in the shootout here. So that meant that going into the third round of the shootout, it all came down to Carson Fook for the Hitmen there. He had to score or to continue the shootout, or Tri-City Americans win, but unfortunately Carson Fook did not score on his attempt there, so the Tri-City Americans took this game 4-3 in a shootout here. And I mentioned there was a lot of shots in this game. Well, the Calgary Hitmen outshot the Tri-City Americans 49-38 here, including each team having 4 in the 3-3 overtime here. So led the way for Calgary. Well, Carson Fook, he still had a goal and assist there, and then Carlson for Trust there. He also had a goal and assist on their captain there. Jack Naughton made 35 saves for Calgary, while Beck Warren for the Tri-City Americans made 48 saves here. And if you remember with my Calgary Hitmen Corral series last year, Tri-City Americans actually originally were the original Calgary Centennials before they moved to Montana there, and then eventually into Kennewick, Washington. That's where the Tri-City Americans franchise is based out of. And I also throw in that Yusuf Alamaki, who is with the Flames now, also played for that team in his junior days. So other tidbits there, but the Tri-City Americans, those are always things I always remember now with following this thing. So that was Game 16. So Game 17, this happened on the following night, on Saturday, November 9th, as Calgary started their road trip, and they went up to the QE2 to take on the Edmonton Oil Kings at Rogers Place, and that was a 7 p.m. puck drop here. That was another battle over to start things off here. However, maybe the Calgary Hitmen were tired from the extra hockey they played that week and the shootout against the Tri-City Americans here, because the Calgary Hitmen, they looked really flat in this whole game here. I mean, Edmonton scored first as Josh Williams finds the back of the net just past the 4-minute mark, and it was 1-0 Edmonton there, but you could probably say we were fortunate to only be down 1-0 here, because after the first period, the Edmonton Oil Kings outshot the Calgary Hitmen 13-2 here. Second period was more the same. Ethan Cap scores just past the 7-minute mark to make it 2-0 for Edmonton here. However, our captain, Mark Kastelic, got a short-handed goal just past the 12-minute mark, and about a minute and a half later, Josh Williams scored his 10th on the season at the time in the second. So Edmonton was up 3-1 with the final 30 seconds of the game, or in the final 30 seconds here. So I'm going to say that past the 12.5-minute mark, it was Josh Williams, and he's also got his 10th. So it was 3-1 for the Edmonton in the final 30 seconds there. So yeah, Josh Williams scored late. So it was 3-1 for Edmonton here after 2 periods there. However, they were out shooting the Calgary Hitmen just in the second period alone, 17-5 here. So that was the game after the second period there. Third period, each team's traded goals here. First, Jake Neighbours for Edmonton scores, and then at the 9-minute mark, and then Jonas Patrick at the 16.5-minute mark for the Calgary Hitmen gets just a second of the game, but it ended up as a 4-2 game for the Edmonton Oil Kings there. And the Calgary Hitmen were terribly outshot in this game, as Edmonton outshot Calgary 39-15 here. But the third period, it was shots more even here. But it also helps that Calgary got into penalty trouble here, so the Edmonton Oil Kings had 9 power plays here, so that's another reason why we had shots against. And as I said, the Edmonton Oil Kings definitely have our number right now. And Edmonton was led obviously by Jake Neighbours. He had 2 goals and assists there, and Riley Shawchuk and Matthew Robertson, both of the Oil Kings, each chipped in with 2 assists here. And it was Braden Peters that was in net for the Calgary Hitmen. He made 35 saves, while Todd Scott only needed to make 13 for Edmonton there. So that was game 17. And the last game of this segment here actually did not happen for a week here. So Calgary had a bunch of games here, and then they had a week off here, which I said in the opening, why it feels like it's been a while since I did this. So game 18, this happened on Saturday, November 16th. The Calgary Hitmen were on the road to take on the Saskatoon Blades, but this time they're at the Saskatoon Center with a 6 p.m. puck drop here, and Calgary was looking there for their first win against the Blades this season, and then they came out strong, and eventually the Calgary Hitmen got rewarded with the first goal by Captain Mark Kastelic, his 12th of the season, past the 9-minute mark. And Luke Prukov scores 4.5 minutes later, so Calgary finds themselves up 2-0 here in the first period. However, Riley McKay for the Blades put Saskatoon on the board past the 16-minute mark on the power play. But Calgary still enjoyed a 2-1 lead after the first period there. And the first period, though, also I'll highlight here that Hunter Campbell for Calgary and Riley Kay for Saskatoon took coincidental unsportsmanlike misconduct there, and then Jackson Van Lees for Calgary cross-checking there. So there was definitely some fisticuffs at the end of the first period there. Second period, Calgary totally dominated, and Mark Kaslick again scores at the 14-minute mark to put Calgary up 3-1. And then Hunter Campbell actually scores his first of the season in the final minute of the second period. So Calgary takes a 4-1 lead going into the third period here. Third period, Saskatoon did push back to try to get back into the game here, but they could not find a goal, and that Calgary didn't score either. So ultimately, the Calgary Hitmen won this game 4-1 here. However, early in the third period here, Saskatoon was awarded with a penalty shot just past the 4-minute mark, where Tristan Robbins was on the penalty shot there, but he was stopped by Jack Minotton here. And overall, the Calgary Hitmen outplayed the Blades in this one as they outshot the Saskatoon Blades 28-19 here. Calgary was led by the captain Mark Kaslick with 2 goals there. Jack Minotton made 19 saves for Calgary, while Noel Mayer made 24 saves for Saskatoon here. So after 24 games of the regular season here, or 18 games, never mind, I was looking too far ahead here, which I will do that when I win the next 6 games. So after 18 games, the Calgary Hitmen are 10-6-1-1, which means they have 10 wins, 6 losses, overtime loss, and they also have a shootout loss column here. So overall, that gives them 22 points on the standings there. They're 4th in the Central Division, and they're in the first wildcard spot of the Eastern Conference here of the WHL here. And as I said, there's definitely been some injuries here for the Calgary Hitmen here. There's 5 forwards that's on the injury list: Carson Fook, Bradley Fither-Schultz, James Malin, Ty Currier, and Cale Zimmerman here. Carson Fook of the 5 has the shortest injury. He said he's out day-to-day, but others are 4 weeks. And then Cale Zimmerman, he's actually out indefinitely here. And James Malin is the only one that has an upper body injury, while the other 4 players have lower body injuries. So definitely got some injuries up front here, but looking ahead at the next 6 games here for the Calgary Hitmen here, I feel like that when looking at set standings here, I think there's a few games here that the Hitmen can take advantage of that are below them in the standings to continue on this road trip here. So game 19, this is on Sunday, November the 17th. The Calgary Hitmen are going to go up to Prince Albert to take on the Prince Albert Raiders at the Hauser Center. That's a 5 p.m. puck drop here. And then game 20, the Calgary Hitmen on Wednesday, November 20th, they're going to take on the Regina Pats at the Branch Center. That'll be a 6 p.m. puck drop here. So we take it on Regina again, but this time under normal circumstances at the Branch Center. Game 21, Friday, November 22nd, the Calgary Hitmen will be in Brandon to take on the Brandon Wheat Kings. That'll be a 6:30 puck drop at the Westobia set place. In game 22, the Calgary Hitmen on Saturday, November 23rd, they'll be in Moose Jaw. Take on the Moose Jaw Warriors at Mosaic Place, 6 p.m. puck drop here. And it isn't until game 23 on Friday, November 29th, the Calgary Hitmen return home to take on the Regina Pats. That'll be at the Scotiabank Saddledome at 7 p.m. puck drop. But then game 24, the next night on Saturday, November the 30th, the Calgary Hitmen go up to QE2 to take on the Edmonton Oil Kings. That'll be a 2 p.m. puck drop and an afternoon affair at Rogers Place here. So I'm going to say there's definitely some winnable games there in between when you look at the standings there. So yeah, that's how the Calgary Hitmen look after games 13 and 18 on the 2019-20 WHL schedule here. And I'm going to say the Hitmen have just been steadily, they've been up and down here, but you know, it's a long season here, and maybe they still pick things up, but as I say, we still think we're in pretty good shape to at least realistically think this team is a playoff bound team. So anyway, if you enjoy everything I do on my YouTube channel, where I talk Calgary sports here and Also throwing some personal vlogs and throwing some senior videos, and maybe on time throwing a attempt at comedy here. Just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to follow along here. And I'm going to say here, I guess the next episode for the Calgary Hitmen, where I'll look at games 19 to 24 for episode 5. That'll come in a couple weeks again here, which I would say on the average we're about a week and a half to 2 weeks in between episodes here. But it just depends on where the games are and where they finish here. But I also want to look ahead to the schedule here, because the Calgary Hitmen do take some time off for Christmas. You got to remember, these guys also go to school and they got their academics to worry about too. But they do take some time off for Christmas here, so actually it works out nicely where the breaks in the schedule work out. I should also add in that I won't be talking about for another few more episodes here, but on Sunday, December 1st there, that's the teddy bear toss game, and they actually have opened up the press level for that game. That'll be on Sunday, December 1st, so we'll see how many teddy bears get tossed at this year's game here. And I believe it was the Hershey Bears last year in the AHL that they broke the Hitman record from 2015 when we threw at that game over 28,000 bears, and the Hershey Bears, considering their stadium only holds 10,000, I think they threw over 30,000 bears, but it all goes to a good cause, you know, to donate toys to sick kids in the hospital, and those are less than fortunate here. So that's just another plug for the teddy bear toss game. That you know, also known as the nosebleed seats, they're actually open for because you know how much the demand is, and usually the teddy bear toss game definitely gets a full sell down there. So, so as I say, I'm gonna say let's go Hitmen, and I'll see you in the next video here.